Hi everyone, this is Deborah. Welcome back. As you can see from this big bag sitting on my table, I have a huge mass of fabric that I need to sort. What I've been doing is just throwing everything into this bag. I did a big clean-up of my drawers the other day, and I thought I'll throw all the little bits into this bag and we'll go from there. I've now gone through and I have cut all of my pieces up. I did actually film it, but it didn't work, so I'm just going to have to show you the results. I've done 10-inch squares, which are these ones here, and you can see I have quite a lot of this fabric. It was a backing fabric I had, so I've just chopped that into 10-inch squares. I also have 10-inch squares that I found because I haven't used all that's been in the layer cake pack, so that's what they are. These are cut. This is another one, and these ones were cut out of a background I did recently. So I got that many 10-inch squares. I don't know how many, but it's a few. Things that were smaller I cut into 5-inch squares. So these ones here, I haven't bothered to trim them off. These are leftovers, but I will when I go to use them. And then bits that have been left over when I've done the backing of a quilt, because I always make it bigger than the quilt, of course. And this has been left over, and I've had enough to cut these into 5-inch squares. And then I had some that I'd already cut and I had them together, but I've just taken them apart. They were in 2 lots. So I've just unpicked that really quickly. So I've got lots of variety of different things in there as well. The other lot I got are these, which are 2.5-inch strips. Now some of these are only little like that, but I don't want to throw it away. It was already, done for a quilt. So I'm just going to use those shorter bits. Then I've got longer bits. That's a bit longer. And then I've got ones that were actually already in 2.5-inch strips. Now I haven't taken these apart yet, but I will. But I've got ones that I've cut that are in 2.5-inch strips, and ones that were already 2.5 inches that I hadn't used when I used the jelly roll. Oh, here's one here. I was looking for one, but there's one there. So you can see that I've got a nice pile of 2.5-inch strips, and then I have the rest. Now the rest are in this bag here. These weren't quite wide enough for a 2.5-inch strip. Oh, I've got a whole heap more here too. They're all, like you can see, came straight from a jelly roll, things I hadn't used. So I'll make something with those at some point. But these ones here, these are the ones that are just left over. So not big enough for a 2.5-inch strip, but I didn't want to throw it away. Even though that one's not very wide, I can still use that one. And that's what I'm going to be doing today. I'm going to be using these to make something. So what I have is a piece of fabric. I want to make a cover for one of my junk journals. So I want to actually have the bag so I can put it in so that it doesn't get dusty. And I've measured this around the junk journal. It's quite a chunky junk journal, this one. And I've just cut this old piece of fabric. This is just a cotton fabric that I had in my leftover stash from something, but it will do. That will be the inside of the bag, and I'll sew onto the outside. So I think this one is about, it's about 15 inches by about 20 inches. It might be a bit more than 20 actually. I'll just give it a quick measure in case you're interested. Let's see. It's 22 inches. And all I did was put the junk journal that I want to put in here on it, and then just wrapped it around and left another inch or so on either edge so that I've got room to sew things together. And also because when I start attaching these onto it, it's going to shrink a little bit the more I sew it. I'm turning this so that the smallest part is across here, because then I'll be able to sew more strips on it. And I'm choosing something that's going to go from one edge to the other. Get that in shot for you. And I'm just putting it on. Now, if this was square, I would go from corner to corner with my first one and then build out on either side. This is not square, and it doesn't matter that it's not square. The technique will still work. I'm going to put that on. So I have roughly here a 45-degree angle. I haven't measured that, but it looks about right to me. Don't need to measure everything, but the strip you're putting on does need to go off the edge of one side and off the edge of the other side. So if I pull this up here, you can see that's going all the way across. Now if you have a smaller strip, for example this one, put it on the right side, it's not going to go across to the edge. That's okay. You can either do two things. You can use it elsewhere, so you could put it down here, for example, where it is going to go off the edge of the bottom fabric, or you could join something to it and then you would have a longer strip. What I'm doing now is I'm just getting some out that I think might match. Now some of these shorter strips of the same fabric I'm going to join together, and I don't care about the selvage. I rather like that writing on the selvage, so that may end up being within the actual bag. I can almost get that one, it's just slightly too short, but I'll join it together. I've started to sew this on now. I'll just put it around the right way so you can see it. And here's my bit of fabric, and you can see I've started to sew it on. Now I'm going to take my scissors here. I'm just going to trim this edge off up here, just like that, so I don't have all that hanging over. And then I'm going to come down here. I had to join a tiny bit at this end because it wouldn't quite fit. I just stopped and joined that and then kept going. So that's all going back into the bag. And this bit up here is not quite enough. I may have to join a little bit on that as well. This will be the next piece that I do, and I'll show you what I'm doing. So I've got that piece there, the edge isn't that straight, and that's fine. And you just put this down so it's over that edge up there and the bottom edge, and you just put it on. Now you can put it anywhere. See, I've got all this stuff here, so I might bring it in a bit and just sew there, and then fold it over once you've sewn it, and then repeat. So you're actually, it's like quilting as you go, but it works fine for doing this sort of thing too. So what I did with this bit here, if you just look, I just put another bit on there before I kept sewing. Now I'm just going to chop that bit off and put it back into the pile. And then I've sewn down that one, so you can see that now becomes skinnier. But if you vary them in widths, it's actually probably even nicer. Now I'll give you a tip, because I have made this mistake before when I've been doing this sort of thing. When you've got this piece here, you need to make sure it not only goes over the edge on the piece that you're doing, but when you flip it up, it needs to be over the edge. If you cut it here and you flip it up, it's possibly not going to be long enough, but you'll work that out. You'll soon find out that that's not going to work for you. The other thing I did is I've sewn one on the other edge. So again, I've just turned the fabric around and sewn this. Not quite long enough again, but I had two strips, so I've sewn them. Make sure it's over the edge. I'll tidy all the edge of it up later. Now you can give it a press as you're going between each strip. I sometimes do that and I sometimes don't. I probably need to give that a bit of a press, and I'll do that now. But mix your fabric up. So I think now I've got quite a bit of that fabric, which is all from the one range. This is different range and this is a different range. And I do have another one of these, which is quite long. So I might toss another one of those in and go back to something different. Let's see what else I've got that I can bring it up. I'm probably not, now that I've done all that, not going to put a brown on there because it's really going to stand out. But I can find some others. I like this anchor fabric. It is from the same range again, but I will put this on here, and I will have to possibly sew that. It may just be long enough, I'm not sure. And then I want to put some more of this bright stuff on here, or even this one here, because that one is matching with that one and it's going to tie it together, but kind of make sure I use the three of them. Or even this red dot, that's going to be nice. That's from the same range as the shipping one. So I'll go back to the machine and I'll do a bit more. I have finished that, and when I got to the end, I just sewed that onto there, because now I'm going to flip it over so you can see that everything's sewn on, and it will look much nicer once I cut all these bits off. I'm going to come through with my trimmer. Got my trimmer, and just slice these off. Now some of them have got quite thick joins because it's several lots of fabric all joined together. but I'll make it work. Not worry too much at this stage if it's too square. Again, if you were doing a quilt, you would be concerned. You'd want to square it up to the bottom fabric. Much easier, much nicer than what I'm doing this one. Oh, I think I've got a little tuck there in that one. And there you go. It's quite bright, but it's quite nice. So now I'm going to make sure that it's square. I'll just fold it in half and get those edges nice and square. I'm just lining up the bottom of my ruler, the inch mark on my ruler, to square it up. And this is double, so it is super thick, but I think it'll get there. I'll flip that over, so I'll keep the square going. Yep. Just using the edge of the fabric here as my guide. I'm going to leave it inside out and I'm going to sew down the edges. Actually, I might bind it first, I think. That might be the idea. I'll bind the top edges first. I've done this first lot of binding on here. So that's that one. And all I did was take a piece of fabric and fold it in half. This is probably a little bit skinny. Normally I work with a piece of 2.5 inch wide, but this seemed to work okay. And then I sewed it onto the end like this, and then I'm just going to fold it over. Because I've got quite a lot of bulk in there, I'm just going to pin that with my quilt clips. I don't pin or use my quilt clips very much. As you can probably see, I'm a bit of a let's get it done type of person, and this all takes time. But in this instance, because it's a bit small, I'm just going to pin it and make sure I've got some of the orange showing on this side, which I have. There you go. I've sewn it down the sides. Gone a bit off track there. I don't know whether that was me or how I did the top layer. I'm just going to trim these off. Now, I would never normally leave a raw edge like that, and I can overlock that afterwards. I'll just have to pull the overlocker out to neaten it up. But I could have bound it all the way around, but I didn't want to. And here's the bag. Just turn it in the right way now. Now I want to see if it actually fits the journal that I made it for. So I'm just going to put it in there and see that that fits. So that actually fits quite well. It's going to protect it. I'm wondering if I need to tie it off, like fold it like an envelope fold and then put something here to tie it off. I think I may do that. The other thing I could do is I could put a base on it. So if I just see how far that is, that's about 1.5 inches. Yeah, so I might pinch that base in now that I've gotten to this point. I'm going to turn it back in the wrong way again, and I'm going to put the base. Just grab my, it doesn't matter what marker you use, I'll use this one because it's quite dark for this one. You'll be able to see it then, and just pinch it like that to a triangle. And I measured 1.5, so I'm going to come across 1.5 inches from there. Just roughly 1.5 inches. That looks pretty good. Draw a line, and that I will sew, and then go up to the other end. So just put my hand in, feel for the middle bit there, and then draw another line at 1.5 inches. And now it's got a bit of a foot on it. You can see that there. It's got the sewn bit on it, and on that side too, and they're roughly the same size. Let's see how well I did with that. Yep, pretty good. Got them both the same size, which was pretty good luck. So now it's got a bottom in it, or a gusset, and then it will go in here. And then I think I will put that tie on it so that it doesn't fall out, but it fits perfectly on that gusset on the bottom there. So to finish it up, I put a tie on it, and I've actually decided to grab some ribbon. It's brown. It's probably not the best colour. It was the first one I picked up, but it'll do the job. So now I'm going to tuck that in there. Let's take some of this threads away that I seem to get everywhere. And then maybe I'll put it in like that. Actually, maybe I'll put it in like that first, and then tuck this here under the book, and then bring this one around like that, and tie it up the top here. There you go. Make a present out of that too with a ribbon. So I probably should bring these edges in a bit more, but look, I'm not going to bother. I've been online doing this, had my video going for exactly 1 hour. So that's what I've achieved in that 1 hour. It's fit for purpose for me, and I've used some of my scraps. So I'm super happy about that. If you've got any questions about this, please ask, or anything in fact. All of my details are down below in the description box, and you can email me, or you can comment on this video. So thanks very much for watching me. This is Deborah. Cheers.